Well, I told a little story on my Facebook group. Gosh, I think it was yesterday or maybe the night before about true story. I was at the grocery store and I was in the produce aisle, of course, because you know me, I love vegetables. And I was watching this little boy. He was about three and a half, and he's sitting in the cart and he was leaning over and he's like trying to touch the broccoli. And his sweet dad, who clearly loved him, was looking at him, and the little kid says, "Dad, can we get this? Can we get this?" And the dad says, "Oh, son, you've tried that. You don't like that." "Well, can we get it?" And the dad keeps convincing the son why we're not going to get the broccoli. And he keeps saying things like, "You know what, hon, you won't like it. You won't like it, and we tried it, and no, we're not going to get that." And I'm dying. I'm dying because I'm thinking this kid is showing an interest in broccoli. But you know what? As parents, we get stuck on our kids taking a bite of broccoli. And we forget that there's a whole path to learning to eat broccoli, to learning to eat carrots, to learning to eat squash, whatever the vegetable happens to be. And the most common misconception that I run into is, "Oh, we've given it to him a few times, he doesn't like it." And parents naturally don't want to serve it again because they don't want to waste food and they don't think the kid will eat it. Well, the problem with that thinking is that every experience for your child is a new one until they've practiced it. I mean, think about that. The first time they were on the soccer field, the first time they got up on stage for the talent show, you know, even if that was in sixth grade. There are so many firsts for children as they grow. And for this little 3.5-year-old boy, he had already had his first, maybe even second exposure to broccoli on his plate, but he wanted to keep trying. And as you'll hear very, very often, it takes many, many exposures for kids, not just to learn to like a new food, but to truly just really learn to love it. You know, it's just about accepting it at first. So tonight, we're going to talk about buy the broccoli. Buy the broccoli. What I was doing, I was literally sending ESP signals to this dad, and I was thinking, please tell that little boy that absolutely, son, you can have the broccoli, but it's your broccoli because you picked it out. I think it's an excellent choice. Hold it really carefully until we get through the checkout line, and then the clerk is going to weigh it for you, and she's going to hand it right back to you because you're in charge of that broccoli. Why do you want to do that? Because now the kid is holding broccoli like it's so precious, and you're rewarding his interest in buying broccoli. Don't worry so much about the bite yet. We're not there. I'm going to show you tonight how to get to the bite. Well, make a big deal to him about it. Excellent choice. Excellent choice. You know, when we get home, you can be in charge of washing it, and you can chop it up if you want. We can pull it apart. We can cook it. We could try it raw. You decide how much you want to put on everybody's plate tonight. I'm kind of hoping you'll share it with the rest of the family. You know, approach it like that. This kid is in charge of his broccoli. So I was sending my ESP signals to the dad, and it was so hard for me because I had a copy of Adventures in Vegetland in my purse, but I thought that would just be too bold to hand him this book and say, "It's my treat, take it home." But now I kind of regret it. I think I should have done it. Okay, now that you bought the broccoli, how do you get kids to learn to love broccoli? All right, first of all, we got to back it up. It takes a long time to learn to love a vegetable that especially has some bitter overtones, which is broccoli does. And many of us are a little more sensitive to bitter than others are. I know that I am. And you got to back things up a little bit. So the first thing you're going to do is think about what that child can do with that fresh head of broccoli the moment he gets home. Well, first of all, if you're going to serve it that night, which I frankly would suggest, then I'd have them wash it. And I'm going to be showing you when I upload this onto YouTube. I'll put a video right here all about the dollar store and fun things that you can get for kids at the dollar store to help them learn to wash their broccoli or their squash or their carrots or whatever it happens to be. All right, so wash it, use some kid-safe knives to help them chop it, and even broccoli, you know, you can just pull it right apart. It's so easy. It's so fun for kids. It makes all these little trees. The next thing you want to think about doing is I'm going to tell you where you can get instructions for this. I'm going to post it in the comments, both on Facebook and on YouTube. But what I usually do with kids is I create some sort of broccoli jungle. I take a little bin. This happens to be an easy lunchbox container. I like something kind of small. And you're going to add some rice, or tonight, actually, I wanted something that looked a little bit darker. So I went with this buckwheat kasha that's from Edison Granary. If you guys don't know about Edison Granary, this is where I order all of my gluten-free pastas. I don't have a financial relationship with them in any way. I just think they're fabulous. And they have really high protein pastas and chocolate covered almonds and yummy stuff like that. So I'll post that in the comments for you when we're all done here so you know how to order those. I think it's really the best gluten-free pasta there is. But they also have wonderful beans and grains and anything gluten-free, and they come in these great compostable containers that also sit up nicely up straight in your pantry. Anyway, okay, let's get back to the broccoli. So I'll have the little kids help you fill up a bin, you know, creating a fun sensory bin here. And again, I'm going to post a copy of the pages from Adventures in Veggieland that shows you all the benefits to doing this with your child. But I'm going to give you the short version right now. And then all you want to do is have the kids pull off the broccoli trees, make sure they're in charge of that, and making some big trees and some little trees. And you know what? You can throw some kale in here, or you can throw anything you want in there. And then whatever characters you have, maybe I've got a dinosaur, okay? These are just little Discovery Toys zoo animals. These are actually over 20 years old. They belong to my two girls. They last forever, you know, and just have them play. But let me show you another tip. This is actually my favorite. Once the kids get home and they're washing the broccoli, one of the first things you can do is put on a little pot of boiling water on the stove, and then get an ice bath, you know, some ice cubes in a bowl with a little bit of water. So icy, icy cold water. And then you're going to blanch the broccoli. Let me show you why. This is a washed broccoli tree. Are you ready? That is a blanched broccoli tree. Can you guys see the difference? Look at the difference in that color. So two things happen. When you blanch any sort of vegetable, it brightens up the color. All I did was I got the water boiling, and I took this entire piece right here, threw it in the boiling water. It was in there for maybe not even a minute. And it's definitely still has a crunch, but it has, look, even if I turn it around here, you can see it has a lot more moisture than this dry broccoli right here. And that way, when the kids do go to take a bite, they don't get as many little shards in their mouth, like down here in the lateral sulci. It's so tickly, especially if you're kind of a sensory kid. And it's a lot easier for them to chew and swallow and contain that bolus on their tongue so that they don't get so gaggy. It's another reason why we like kids to learn to dip. And the last Facebook Live that I did, I'll post it right up here for you when I put it on YouTube, that'll talk a little bit about the advantages of dips and how you can make at least 15 super healthy dips to learn to dip broccoli in. Okay, so definitely blanching is a really good thing. I highly recommend it. I put it in all my books. And you know what? Even when I go to the neighbors for football season and I always bring the veggie tray, well, I blanch all the vegetables on the veggie tray, and they just stay looking really beautiful. They last throughout the whole game. They have a little extra moisture in them, yet they still have a nice crunch. And you can keep these in the fridge like this. I would put a damp paper towel on top of them and then put them in your container. Stick them in the fridge. They'll last for 3 or 4 days this way. All right, now you've got some blanched broccoli. And you know what? You could even play around with sticking it in and looking at the difference. That'd be fine too. That'd be fun. Now, the nice thing about an exercise like this for your kids, a fun activity like that, is you absolutely can still use the broccoli, so you're not wasting anything. Now, another idea for you. Some kids do okay with this, and you definitely could, pull apart a little bit more if they want to nibble on this end versus, I think the tree part's a little bit more tickly. But don't forget to take the stalk of the broccoli, and you can have kids help you do this. Just have them put some kitchen gloves on. I'll post them in the comments for you where to buy little gloves for kids that protect their hand, and have them actually peel off the outer layer of this tough skin of the broccoli. What you'll get down to is this really lovely, almost carrot-like moist layer, and then you can chop those into coins, and you can either nibble on them raw, or you can, I like to roast mine just for a few minutes, not very long, and it makes them a little bit softer, and they're so easy for kids to eat because it doesn't have this harder outer layer, but it also doesn't have the tickly part of the tree, which some kids love and other kids really hesitate about. So you might consider using more of the stalk and doing little thin coins and starting there, because you'll still get the flavor and definitely the aroma. It's very earthy aroma that broccoli has, and that's something we all have to get used to, especially little munch bugs. Alrighty. I also want you to consider that as couple other points, that if you happen to blanch this and you've got, I don't know, 5 or 6 pieces of this in a Ziploc bag in your fridge, every single time you make something else, have the little kid go in and say, let's get a little piece of your magic tree, and have them just peel off a little tiny bit. Now they're holding broccoli again and being exposed to the aroma. And even if you're making a smoothie, or honest to goodness, I know this sounds crazy, but let's say you're making a chocolate milkshake. Well, put the ice cream in your blender, and little kids love to push the button. Even my 10, 12-year-olds love to make milkshakes. Give them a little tiny piece of broccoli, have them throw it in, and watch it pulverize into that chocolate milkshake. Anything dark, like blueberry smoothies, chocolate, etc., is going to hide anything green. But I want them to see it actually go in and pulverize. You will not be able to taste a tiny piece of broccoli like that. But the kid knows it's in there. These little steps that aren't, hey, take a bite, that's a big deal to a kid. These little tiny steps in exposure and exploration are what get kids more experience, and they eventually make friends with broccoli. And finally, I did want to mention too that you can also take broccoli and just puree the heck out of it. So after you blanch, or maybe even steam it, in this case, make it a little bit softer, just pulverize it in anything you want, a magic bullet or your food processor. I have both of those little mini food processors. Those work great. Make a bunch of broccoli puree. Make sure you add a little bit of, probably olive oil to it, just to give it an extra smooth texture. And you can do the same thing. If your child loves hummus, have them take just a little tiny bit of that green puree and maybe make a swirl throughout their hummus with it. Or if they love mashed potatoes, maybe they'd be willing to just take a few sprinkles of the broccoli and just decorate the top of the mashed potatoes with it. They might eat around it and never eat the broccoli, but that's okay. They're getting there. They're getting there. I think what I'm trying to emphasize more than anything else tonight is that it's so easy for us to get stuck on, okay, we're playing with the food, but when's he going to take a bite of it? Well, you have to think about it like climbing a ladder. Playing with the food is down here. Chomping and eating and swallowing and asking for more broccoli is way up here. So there's a lot of little tiny steps to getting there. And mostly it's about cooking and finding ways for your child to interact with that broccoli, and ways that they want to put the tiniest piece of broccoli into their chocolate milkshake, or their chocolate pudding, or sprinkled on top of mashed potatoes. There's another recipe in Adventures in Veggieland called a potato bar. And it's one of my most favorite things to do with kids, where we just set up all these different toppings for baked potatoes. And even if they don't like baked potatoes, at least they're interacting with all the other toppings. And they could definitely load up mom and dad's baked potato, right, and serve it to them. Maybe even have your kiddo have a baked potato sale, like a lemonade stand, right? And go up and order what you would like on top of your baked potato, because now your kid is touching broccoli, or he's touching oh gosh, grated cauliflower, or maybe cheese if you've got a child who's really hesitant to interact with really smelly cheese, frankly. Then get them involved, make them in charge of it, just like that little boy in the grocery store. That's his broccoli to be in charge of, and I wish that dad had bought it for him. So remember to buy the broccoli.